and welcome back to Peace Only Podcast. I'm your host, Franco Latona. This week we caught up with Austin. He's an agriculture volunteer in southern Senegal. Austin first arrived in country in September of 2016, meaning he's at the very end of his service. Austin, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Franco.
You live in a small village in the south, is that correct?
Yeah, it's about 400 people.
Can you tell me, what was that like coming from America and going to live out in a rural village in Senegal?
Culture shock is absolutely a real thing, and you don't really understand it until you actually get here and you literally live in what we call the bush. I don't have any running water or electricity, and our most advanced form of technology is a well.
So you have to pull water from the well every day?
Every day to do dishes, to drink water, to shower.
I asked Austin, what does a typical day look like in a rural village like his?
So usually I'll wake up in the morning, maybe do some reading and just take a little bit of time for myself, maybe make myself a little cup of coffee.
He heads out into his compound for breakfast, which is usually some sort of rice or millet-based dish.
So after I eat breakfast with my host family, I'll go hang out with my work partner out at his little boutique that he has. There's a tiny little shop that just sells little commodities to the village, like spices for cooking our rice, nothing too fancy. And then I'll go out to a field and check up on some farmers, see how their crops are doing, or if we outplanted cashews, we'll go check out on that stuff and just run through a lot of routine things.
By that time, it's usually early afternoon.
I'll generally come back for lunch and either eat lunch with the farmer or go back to my host family.
By then, Austin says the afternoon heat is unrelenting.
Everyone just hangs out and does nothing until it starts cooling down again. And then once it starts cooling down again, we go back out to the fields, which is really cool because, you know, the day is starting to slow down, the work's taking a slower pace, but you just gotta make sure all your work is done before the sun sets.
I asked Austin about his favorite work project during his service.
I do a lot of work in the gardens.
Like field crop seed extension, for example.
But the work I've honestly found the most rewarding has been cashew work.
Cashews are harvested and sold every year in the southern region where Austin is.
And they're really easy to plant because they grow so well down there.
And in case you're not sure how cashews grow exactly,
most of the people in America don't understand.
His words, not mine. Austin explains it for us.
On the nut, it's got a shell. And on that shell is an apple.
Not an apple like you'd find at an American grocery store. A cashew apple resembles something closer to a tomato in terms of texture, a red or yellow color, and a sweet taste that is also tart.
And the apple is what falls from the tree, and then you have to roast the nut in order to get to the shell.
Roast the shell to get to the nut.
So when you plant a cashew, when you get the seed, you have to take off the apple and put it in the ground. But you have to make sure the spacing is correct, because if you have them too close together, they're not going to produce as much fruit because there's not enough soil fertility to, produce if you have 10 within 10 meters versus 1 every 15 meters.
So Austin helps local farmers produce the greatest yields possible.
Talking about spacing and pruning the trees and maintenance and making sure the monkeys don't come around and steal your stuff. People value cashew work a lot because cashews, you can get a lot of money from cashews. Like 1 kilo of cashews is about 1,500 sefa here.
That's about $3.
Which might not seem a lot to us, but that's a lot of money for people down here. That's like feeding your family for a couple of days.
When you have a hectare, which is 100 square meters, and that's full of cashew trees,
you can be making some serious money with that. So honestly, it's been the most rewarding thing because people really value my input.
And while Austin is glad to have done meaningful work projects while serving in Senegal, he said what he'll remember most is the people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't think of Senegalese culture without thinking of Teranga.
Teranga can be loosely defined in English as hospitality, but the Senegalese are known to take it to a whole nother level. Teranga is giving even when it's inconvenient or when there just isn't enough. Austin gives an example of when he was in training.
My fellow trainee and I were going to go down to the beach and meet up with another one of our friends, but he was coming from his house, so we had to wait for him.
So they're standing there, outside this little shop, and it's hot.
So we walked inside to get a cold drink, and the 2 men sitting behind the counter offered us their lunch.
Austin and his friend politely declined, like many Americans would.
And they were like, no, come sit down, come get lunch with us. And we just sat down and shared lunch with these two random strangers that we'd never met before, and then they ended up giving us free sodas.
Did you ever experience anything like that in America before, or was that unusual?
Oh, never with a complete stranger. I mean, these people were so hospitable. They were like really, really, really wanted us to be there. And I've never gone to like a 7-Eleven before and had the guy behind the counter say, hey, come eat free food and have like a free drink on us.
In addition to the hospitality Austin has experienced from Senegalese locals, he says the friendships he's made with other volunteers in his cohort are truly unique.
My cohort that I came here with, I've never formed closer relationships with anyone in my entire life.
Arriving in Senegal was scary, he says. Learning a new language and culture.
And we're just have no idea what to go on, so we just have to use each other for a support system. So just going from, having a typical conversation of, hey, how's your day going, to maybe you had a great bowel movement the other day. We covered the whole spectrum.
So those abstract walls that normally exist between people, not so much here.
Oh, there are no boundaries amongst Peace Corps volunteers, at least in your own region or even throughout your whole entire post. Which is fantastic because, like I said, these relationships are something I'm going to cherish forever, and that's going to be one of the hardest things about leaving this country, is having all these friends that I'm not going to see as regularly as I usually do.
With time in Senegal winding down, I ask him about his plans for after service. He says he wants to move to Oregon.
Just live in my grandparents' house for a little while and just kind of live alone.
Maybe get a job.
Make a little bit of money before I decide to go to school for EMT and paramedic stuff.
Sounds like a plan. Austin's plan. Thank you, Austin, for being on the show. And thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm your host, Franco Latona. Babenen, Ngongo, à la prochaine. Until next time, Inshallah.